Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Yoga Break It Down. I'm Yoga Suze. In this episode, we are going to explore chair yoga. There are three main positions we are going to explore in this video, but I also want to draw your awareness to a previous episode. It would be episode number 7, Spinal Twists Break It Down, where I include a spinal twist sitting at the chair. So please go back and look at that after you try the exercises in this video. For this option, I want you to have 2 chairs available to you. And in choice of chairs, you do not want to have a chair with wheels on it or armrests. So a folding chair or a kitchen chair usually work best. Position the 2 chairs so that they face each other and that they're not too far away from each other, within the couple feet range. You will be sitting on one of the chairs and you want to scooch forward towards the front of the chair, but mainly thinking that you're going to be sitting on the front half of the chair. For this position, you're going to have a wider than hip distance stance. So bringing the feet a little wider than hip distance, you're going to turn the feet out slightly because, again, as the hips start to open, the knees need to start pointing out, and then the toes point slightly out so that the toes, the knees, and the hip bones are all in line. Being mindful of the alignment of your back and the safety of your neck, you're going to lean forward towards the other chair. And when you can reach it comfortably, place your fingertips or palms on the chair in front of you. As you're leaning forward, your pelvis may come a little bit up off the chair, and you'll find yourself resting more on the upper legs, and that's fine. You don't need to try to ground the pelvis. It's helping to tilt it to keep the spine in line. Remind the knees to extend out away from each other as they have tendency to sink in towards your torso. Allow the torso to drop forward a little bit. It might not be dropping downwards yet, but let it come forward a little bit more, keeping the spine in line. You can start to bend in the elbows, and depending on how far forward you come down and where the chair is positioned, you may even end up resting part of your forearm on the seat of the chair in front of you. If you're able to move the chair in front of you, you might scooch it a little bit further out to position it where the fingertips just reach the chair with the spine fully aligned and the arms elongated as well. And that's such a nice full stretch to the upper body, similar to what we receive in downward dog, but without the challenge of supporting ourselves with our arms. When the arms are overhead, which I'm saying they're overhead even though you've brought your torso and arms to a horizontal position, that's a position that really invites the breath into the lungs and into the upper part of the lungs. So take advantage of that, whether you're using slow, deep breaths or big, gulpy breaths through the nose or through the mouth. If you have a chair like I'm demonstrating with that has a little bar underneath the seat, another option is to reach down for that bar to bring yourself a little bit lower. Another option for going deeper is to use a block. And our blocks we can use at the highest height, the middle height, or flat on its back. When we start reaching lower than chair height, the back may round a little bit, but we want to be mindful of it and use the rounded back if it complements the stretch, and straighten the spine when possible. If we're reaching for the block, we definitely want to make sure the knees keep moving away from each other so that the inner thighs are moving away from the torso and there's room for the torso to actually lower. If you feel that the torso can't move because of the legs, see if the feet can come a little further apart. But again, only so far as you can extend the knees out to be over the ankles. If you like lowering your torso in this position further, you can even opt for removing the block, lowering the torso further, and possibly having the fingertips touch the floor. They may or may not. In this option, you might choose to hang more, have more of a rounded spine, sort of a ragdoll position. And in that position, you can really focus on letting the shoulders relax and perhaps use an exhalation through the mouth so it has that sigh-like quality. Whichever degree of a forward fold you come into, be careful as you're coming up. Be kind to your back. I often place my hands on the upper legs and give a gentle push up to sitting. You can also practice a similar stretch with this with your desk or kitchen table instead of using a chair, where the prop is a little higher, but it's still a similar stretch and readily accessible to you. So whether you've just finished your breakfast and want to incorporate a stretch after, or whether you're at work and need a little break from the computer screen. The next pose that I'm going to demonstrate is squat, which is fantastic because it's very challenging to practice the squat in the middle of the room with the feet on the floor yoga mat and no prop. For the squat position, similar to our wide leg forward fold with chair, we are going to have the feet wider than hip distance and turned out a little bit. But in this one, we are going to incorporate blocks to place our feet on. So you're going to have the blocks at the middle height. So first identify what distance you want the feet apart to feel like you have a great hip opening, but only moving the feet so far that the knees can follow and that the knees can stay over the ankles. Position your blocks there and then place your feet on top. Immediately you may feel like you want to lean backwards, but work on sitting upright, and that could be the extent of your squat, where you're sitting upright and you're reminding those knees to extend out and you're breathing. And you'll feel a significant stretch as a hip opener into the inner thighs. Another option to increase the stretch is to bring the arms and the elbows in between the legs. We're going to lean forward, place one elbow into the lowest part of the inner thigh, right by the knee, but not pushing into the knee. And then the other elbow as well, and placing the hands in a prayer pose. So at first, the forearms are pointed upwards at a diagonal. And then the work is to lower the hands and the wrists, start to push the elbows more against the inside of the legs, and working on bringing the wrist elbow height. So this creates sort of a jack for the position to keep the legs open. If you notice when you do this that the knees now go further than the ankles, then please take the time to adjust your blocks a little further out, still at your diagonal, so that when your legs are in this full position, the knees are directly over the ankles. Now we're going to take this into a fuller body stretch. So releasing the arms from the jack position, you can now take one arm to the inside of the leg, however it positions. So you might have the elbow, you might have part of the forearm, but just giving a little push to either the inside of the upper or lower leg. And then as you do that, you're going to rotate the torso to face the other direction and raise the arm up. You're working towards that arm coming directly over the shoulder, and a nice straight line, it's probably a diagonal, but a straight line, not bent, from one shoulder of the shoulder that's lower, through the chest, through the other shoulder, and out through the hands, so that the arm isn't at an angle this way or reaching even further out of line with the chest. Continue to put that pressure with that one arm into the inside of the leg as you keep rotating the upper torso to face the other direction. Make sure to practice this on both sides. And notice that one side might have more limitation than the other. You might notice for me that I'm able to open up more when I'm using my right arm and opening to the left than when I'm using my left arm and opening to the right. In this next exercise, I'm demonstrating a couple positions here. So the first part is what we call rock the baby. And this involves getting that lower leg up, lifting it in some way that's comfortable, that's accessible to you. So you can see how I'm interacting with the leg, and if that's not working for you, play around with different options. Just grab hold where you can. And the main idea is that we are grabbing hold of our leg, the leg is bent, and we're just moving it a little bit. We're rocking it mainly to get that hip mobility. So as you can see, I demonstrate grabbing with one hand, with both hands, hooked around in different ways. And then the further stretch is where I hook one elbow around the heel, and that immediately draws the leg very close to you. And then, if possible, also drawing the opposite arm around the other side, so around the knee side. In any of these variations, try to keep the foot flexed, and they'll keep the ankle straight and supported. Be mindful of the knee. You don't want to yank the lower leg too close to you if the upper leg can't come along, because then you're going to pull at the knee. You're going to pull the knee in two directions. Once you've done this warm-up, and you might notice that as you do that, you get the foot a little higher than the opposite leg, so it's sort of clearing leg height. You can move into this next exercise, which is called figure 4 or number 4. This is also done as a standing position in yoga sometimes, and sometimes as a position when we're laying on the floor. For this, we're taking the foot and ankle of that raised leg, and we're bringing it over to the opposite leg and resting the side of the foot or ankle on the opposite leg, close to the knee, but not right on the kneecap. Again, you want to have the foot flexed so that the ankle is straight. If that is not working for your knee or for the hip, that's why I'm demonstrating first. After rocking the baby, you can opt for lowering that foot, or more so the side of the ankle and side of the foot, down to the seat of the chair, where the palm of your foot is against the inside of the opposite leg. So this is similar to a half butterfly position that we might incorporate into a forward fold on the floor. And this is actually sort of a stage working up to our next exercise, which is a figure 4. For the figure 4, if the first part works okay, where your foot's on the chair and you want to try to go a little further, you can lift the leg again, sort of as we had for our rock the baby. Notice that you probably have the ability now to get that raised foot to be a little higher than the opposite leg, so you have clearance of that leg. And you're going to draw it over towards the opposite leg and place the outside of the ankle or the side of the foot onto that leg, closer to the knee, so not directly on the knee, but right over. And that is usually a comfortable angle for the knee. If the knee is in discomfort, you can play around with bringing the foot closer in the direction of the hip. So the advantage of that is it's more of a concise bend. You're aligning better the lower and upper leg, which can relieve discomfort in the knee. But if it still is uncomfortable, then you would go back to that first option where the side of the foot was on the chair. The reason this is called the figure 4 is if I were standing up, you would have one leg completely straight and then another leg with this angle that is similar to one of the ways of writing a number 4. So here we just have that opposite leg bent. Here, your work may be to simply sit into this pose and breathe into it. If it feels comfortable, you might lean the torso forward a little bit. This will significantly increase the stretch It could be in the leg, the hip, the glute, the lower back. It's a fantastic stretch. So just even leaning forward slightly will increase the stretch. Some of you might lean a little further. Some of you may even get the front of the torso to rest against one or both of the legs. Or if you want to reach for a chair, the seat of the chair might be harder to reach, but if you have the chair facing the opposite way so that the back of the chair is facing you, you might be able to extend upwards a little bit and touch the top of the back of the seat of the chair. Remember to practice this stretch on both sides. Thank you guys for joining me for this episode of Yoga Break It Down. Please hit the subscribe button and share this video with friends. Remember that everybody needs yoga. So that means Dan Reynolds needs yoga, ophthalmologists need yoga, sports journalists, they need yoga, and you especially, baby, you need some yoga too. So I hope you join me next time on Yoga Break It Down. Bye-bye.